Hello friends, today we discuss about the endoscopic third ventriculostomy. Endoscopic third ventriculostomy, as name suggests, this is the procedure which is done by the help of endoscope and to create the bypass for the obstruction of CSF in third ventricle. Endoscopic means with the help of endoscope, where in third ventricle, stomy means a new opening created by the help of endoscope. This is the procedure most commonly done by the neurosurgeon in endoscopic surgery, and this is the first surgery which is learned by the learning curve in neurosurgery for endoscopic surgery. So we discuss about the endoscopic third ventriculostomy techniques and advantage. Endoscopic third ventriculostomy is a technique to treat non-communicating hydrocephalus. To treat non-communicating hydrocephalus, it involves making a hole in the floor, hole or artificial opening in the floor of third ventricle, artificial opening in the hole of the floor of the third ventricle to bypass. For what? Bypass the obstruction to CSF flow using an endoscope. By which? Endoscope. It may be rigid or it may be a flexible endoscope. So this is the technique which bypass the CSF from obstruction to create an artificial opening at the floor of third ventricle, known as endoscopic third ventriculostomy. History. Firstly, using cystoscope, Espinage is fulgurate the choroid plexus in 1910. Then Dandy, you describe the endoscope used for the endoscopic ventriculoscopy. Scopy means for observing the endoscopic intraventricular structures. But first ETV done by Mr. and credit goes to Mr. In 1923, Mr. done or performed the first ETV using erythroscope, and this is credited for the Mr. But this procedure is very cumbersome approach, more complication rate, so the endoscopic surgery are abundant, and then again emerges in new era after the advanced endoscope, improved quality of light source, improved quality of HD cameras. So this is the emerging, and in advanced era or nowadays we are going more and more procedures through endoscope. Objectives are, first we discuss about the indications of the endoscopic third ventriculostomy, then contraindications where we don't do this procedure or where we use less frequency in the this technique, and then about the technique, what is the technique, what is the precautions are taking in technique, and what are the steps in this endoscopic third ventriculostomy, and then we discuss about the complications of the this procedure. And as you know, this is the new technique in neurosurgery. First we know about the conventional method of the treatment of hydrocephalus are the ventriculoperitoneal shunt. So we discuss here as compared to VP shunt, ETV are more beneficial to the treatment of hydrocephalus as compared to ventriculoperitoneal shunt. Indications, most common indications are primary aqueductal stenosis. This is the most common and most advantageous results are found in this type of surgery when the indication is primary aqueductal stenosis. It may be either congenital or may be acquired. Most common indication is primary aqueductal stenosis. Then pineal and tectal tumors, tectal plates or midbrain tumors, posterior third ventricular tumors, pineal tumors. Here one extra advantage is there. Simultaneously one step procedure when simultaneously ETV and biopsy both are done. When we using endoscopic third ventriculostomy with the help of endoscope, and simultaneously we taking the biopsy of the tumor in posterior third ventricle, so that this is the treatment of choice nowadays. Then idiopathic stenosis of foramen Megendii and Laska, so it is bypass the CSF flow. Most commonly using posterior fossa tumors, posterior fossa tumor causing the obstructive hydrocephalus, cerebellar infarct, posterior fossa ICH large, where we also doing this type of surgery which is beneficial. Then patient with repeated shunt infections or shunt malfunctions, we go for the endoscopic third ventriculostomy. This is the posterior fossa tumor. This is posterior fossa tumor with resulting in obstruction at the CSF flow, causing there is a dilatation of ventricles, so there is a ventriculomegaly or obstructive hydrocephalus. Uncommon indications are isolated lateral ventricle with hydrocephalus, where unilateral or monoventricular hydrocephalus, biventricular hydrocephalus. So there is isolated lateral ventricular hydrocephalus when ETV done along with the fenestration, combination with septal fenestration. So unilateral hydrocephalus is fenestrated by the endoscope and ETV done with fenestration to communicate the both lateral ventricles. And also it is done in communicating type of hydrocephalus when repeatedly shunt are malfunction and infected, like tubercular meningitis. Indications: high success rates. We are categorized in 3 categories. Number 1, high success rate. Number 2, intermediate. And number 3, low success rates. High success rate means more than 75% patients are benefited when single time of ETV is benefit to the patient. And intermediate success rate where ETV failure rate are more as compared to high success rate indications. Then high success rate are, as you know, acquired aqueductal stenosis or tumor obstructing CSF flow, just like a colloid cyst of third ventricle, posterior third ventricular pineal tumor, tectal tumor, brainstem glioma, posterior fossa meningioma, CP angle tumor, posterior fossa infarct, that are tumor and tumor-like conditions like obstructing the aqueduct. Then intermediate success rates, previously shunted meningomyelocele patient where shunt is malfunctioning, congenital aqueductal stenosis where is the wave or there is any septa at the aqueductal stenosis, we fenestrate it, arachnoid cyst or Dandy-Walker malformation when recurrent shunt and infection or malfunction of the shunt. Due to the infection or malfunction, shunt are repeatedly done. Then less success rate are post-infectious and post-hemorrhagic. Why? Because there is a hemorrhage and infection which causing block at the arachnoid granulation level. So when you bypass the CSF flow, but CSF is not absorbed by the arachnoid granulations, so this may be a cause of failure. Then favorable features for ETV as a clinical background and a radiological backgrounds. So first of all, we know about the clinical backgrounds. Clinicals are, at the time of diagnosis, age is more than 6 months. At the time of diagnosis, age is more than 6 months, number 1. And at the time of procedure, age is more than 6 months. 6-month criteria are because of this arachnoid granulations are maldeveloped or ill functioning before the age of 6 months, so ETV may be failed and results are poor. No prior radiation therapy. Same reason, radiation also causes scarring at the level of subarachnoid space. No history of meningitis and hemorrhage as discussed previously. These also causes scarring at the level of subarachnoid. Then radiological feature. Radiological feature are most favorable are number 1, obstructive hydrocephalus. Number 2, lack of aqueductal flow, means aqueduct is blocked or there is obstruction at the level of aqueduct. Then thin floor of third ventricle. Thin floor means there is a no chance of infection, no thick wall because of repeated infection and repeated surgery or radiation. Wall of floor of third ventricle is highly tensile or thick. Then downward bulging. These are the radiological criteria which are favorable for the endoscopic third ventriculostomy. So before you go for the endoscopic third ventriculostomy, you are well prepared and well aware about the patient, technique and radiological feature before you go for procedure. Not it, before going to procedure you checked it. Radiological criteria, clinical feature, what is the favorable outcome or what are the favorable technique or when you do the procedure and how to do the procedure. Then the contraindication as discussed previously, past history of meningitis, subarachnoid hemorrhage associated with scarring at the subarachnoid level, associated with scarring. So there is a poor absorption of CSF after bypass the CSF obstruction. Number 2, whole brain radiation, it is also causes scarring, so there is a malabsorption. Number 3, insufficient space between. This is the most important radiological criteria or contraindication for the endoscopic third ventriculostomy, because there is a less space between the basilar artery and clivus, because your targeting point for fenestration is between the clivus and basilar artery. If there is a insufficient space between the clivus and basilar artery, so you are not able to negotiate or fenestrate the floor of third ventricle. So this is the before procedure you are well aware about this after evaluation of MRI. Insufficient dilated third ventricle. If the third ventricle is not dilated, so you are not able to negotiate and observe the floor of third ventricle, or you put by force, so that you are damaging the neural structures. So these are the contraindications for the third ventriculostomy endoscopically. And targeting in technique, first you go for target in entry point or at the skin entry point. So preoperative MRI evaluation, it is must. Preoperative MRI evaluation of neurovascular structure below floor of third ventricle, as we discussed in previous slide. Target point, what is the target point? Number 1, target point is the target point in the midline between dorsum sella and basilar artery. You well know about this. Target point is between dorsum sella and the basilar artery, midpoint. Number 2, entry point. Number 2, entry point. Foramen of Monro, mostly right side. Foramen of Monro, side of entry. Mostly in our case, we are doing mostly from right side. Extend to skin for the skin entry point. So when this is clivus, this is basilar artery, and target point this is foramen of Monro. So when skin, you extend the line through skin to foramen of Monro. So your skin entry point is extending the line between the target and foramen of Monro. And skin entry point, after deciding skin entry point, burr hole is made 1 centimeter of the palpable coronal suture anterior to coronal suture, and at mid pupillary line approximately 2 to 3 centimeter lateral to midline. This is the your basilar artery, this is your dorsum sella, and there is your targeting point. This is foramen of Monro. line extending from target point to foramen Monro to the skin in sagittal image of MRI. This is your skin entry point. This is your skin entry point. Maybe a posterior or anterior somewhere at the skin as per the direction of foramen Monro or and floor of third ventricle. So you are well aware about this before going to procedure. Position and marking. This is the midline and this is coronal suture. So you are 2 to 3 centimeter lateral and 1 centimeter anterior to the coronal suture. Your skin entry point, you put here incision, then you go for the burr hole here. This is your burr hole, and then burr hole, and then you open the dura and further negotiate the endoscope. Introducing of endoscope, then position. Head is slightly flexed in snipping position. Head end is slightly up. Dura is cut in cruciate fashion and bleeding from the dural edge is stopped. Before you further pass a 14 French trocar into lateral ventricle, or before entering the trocar, you may also confirm by the brain cannula, or after repeated surgery you done, you are well aware about this and you go directly through the endoscope. Introduce endoscope through the sheath and navigate through the foramen of Monro and identify structure on floor of third ventricle. So you put a burr hole, then inside the skin, then introduce the endoscope into lateral ventricle and then observe and identify the structure in lateral ventricle and then floor of third ventricle before going to fenestrate. And this is the picture of endoscope in lateral ventricle. So you first identify the structure in endoscopically. Number one, this is fornix. There is a anteriorly thrust. This is a fornix. Number two, this is a foramen. This is foramen of Monro. You will appreciate this in picture, and also you are aware to do the procedure before fenestration. Then this is the septal vein anteriorly. This is septal vein. Then this is the choroid plexus, which is going through the foramen of Monro. This is choroid plexus, and most important, the relation of thalamo-striate vein to the choroid plexus. This is thalamo-striate vein. Thalamo-striate vein. This is thalamo-striate vein. If thalamo-striate vein is right side to the choroid plexus, that means you are in the right lateral ventricle. And if this vein is left side to the choroid plexus, you are in the left lateral ventricle, which is most common practice done by in learning curve by neurosurgeons, where the ventricles are much more dilated and you put through the endoscope in opposite side of ventricle, and then you are not aware about the structure. So this relationship is well known or well awareness by the neurosurgeon for before the procedure and further. Then you identify the structure in floor of third ventricle, which is mostly, this is infundibular recess anteriorly. Two mammillary bodies are posteriorly, mammillary bodies. This is dorsum of sella. You are aware about dorsum sella. This is basilar artery and bifurcation. This is basilar artery and its bifurcation. So there is a triangle. There is a triangle from the hypophyseum to the both mammillary bodies, known as hypophysio-mammillary triangle. So you appreciate this before going to fenestrate, because this triangle center. Center of this triangle is your entry point. Midline center of this triangle is your entry point or fenestration point. So before going to fenestrate or going to endoscopically procedure, you are well aware about the structure in floor of third ventricle and lateral ventricle. Then technique for fenestration. The correct point for the third ventriculostomy is the center, as we discussed, center of so-called hypophysiomammillary triangle. Hypophysiomammillary triangle, center of this. Multiple methods are existing for perforating the floor, including blunt probe like Fogarty. Fogarty catheter, you directly probe the floor of third ventricle through Fogarty. Number 2, electrocoagulation. You may fenestrate with the cautery, monopolar or bipolar. Laser probe, you may use ventriculostomy forceps. Ventriculostomy forceps is designed for the fenestration, and forceps which is having serration or serrated outer margin which are used. So mostly you are either using ventriculostomy forceps or by Fogarty catheter for fenestration. Fogarty. But never use electrocoagulation. Never use electrocoagulation, as you not aware about the structure below third ventricle, and if you fenestrate it, it may tear the basilar artery or perforator, or there is a bleeding, is troublesome bleeding, and you may go for the abandon the procedure. So you not go for the electrocoagulation, but you go for the Fogarty blunt fenestration, and either or by the ventriculostomy forceps. Then dilatation of fenestration achieved using a Fogarty 4 French balloon catheter. By this you dilated the fenestration opening of your third ventricle. This is Fogarty catheter. This is Fogarty, and this is balloon which are inflated, and this is dilated the fenestration of third ventricle. Continuous irrigation with lactate ringer solution. Some neurosurgeons are using normal saline. Some uses ringer lactate for the continuous irrigation. When you put endoscope or fenestrate the third ventricle floor, there is a bleeding or oozing from the margins. So you are continuous irrigate with warm saline until bleeding or oozing is stopped. And your vision also hampered when bleeding is troublesome. So continue irrigate and have patience to stop the bleeding, and your vision is improved. So after that you further proceed your procedure. Ventriculomegaly is a patient with have undergone ETV decreases. Size of ventricles decreases much slower rate than the ventriculoperitoneal shunt. So you go for the follow-up scan after 6 to 8 weeks, not post-op day is in shunt surgery. 6 to 8 weeks in radiological comparison before and after surgery. Must explore the prepontine space and open membrane of Liliequist. Liliequist membrane opening is essential for successful ETV. As you fenestrate the floor of third ventricle, there is another membrane which is from the dorsum sella to mammillary body known as Liliequist membrane, and this is obstructing again and not, and this is prevent the bypass of the CSF. So Liliequist membrane extend from the upper border of dorsum sella to the anterior margin of mammillary body, and you must have fenestrate it with the floor of third ventricle. This is Liliequist membrane. After fenestration you see endoscopically, and these are the perforators of the basilar artery. These are the perforator of basilar arteries. This is the video presentation. Maybe imported. After that, we go for complications. Complications are intraoperative or bradycardia. Incidence is high is 41%. IVH, choroid plexus injury, basilar artery injury incidence is 0.05%. These are the complication intraoperative. If the basilar artery injury is appear, you put only EVD and close the patient. Postoperative hypothalamic dysfunction, pneumocephalus, subdural hygromas or hematomas when CSF is gusty outflow and sudden decrease ICP, infection, CSF leak from the wound. If you are not closing properly, memory dysfunction or midbrain injury when tactile injury are there. Complications, delayed seizure and late failure of sudden death. Advantage of ETVR, there is no foreign body implanted like shunt. When you implant permanently a foreign body, so there is a no foreign body, single and small incision, single and 3 centimeter, about 3 centimeter small incision is there, whereas in VP shunt 2 incision, one in at the scalp and another is scalp and another at abdomen, and maybe multiple. When you are not negotiate tunnel, then you may put the incision at the neck also. So multiple incision at the in VP shunt, but there is a only single incision. Low infection rate, less incision, less infection rate, also a short time. This is hardly taking 10 minutes. When you go repeatedly this surgery, your time is short and short, and lastly you are doing this procedure in about hardly taking 10 minutes. Short time in hospital stay and lower long-term complication rate. Lastly, a fool with a still a fool with a tool is still a fool. And, and then we show you video about the technique of the video. This video so this is the video which is for your convenience. Negotiate the endoscope through the sheath, and first you are fixing the camera and sheath by rotating and lock it. Then again after locking you observe the this is the choroid plexus. This is choroid plexus. You are well about known about the choroid plexus. This is the septal vein, thalamostriate vein. Sorry, this is thalamostriate vein, and this is foramen of Monro. This is crus. This is fornix. Choroid plexus going through the foramen of Monro. Then you go inside the foramen of Monro. After going it inside, you may observe the structure in floor of third ventricle. These are the both are mammillary bodies. Both are mammillary bodies. These in median eminence. This is basilar artery, and this is the branches superior cerebellar arteries. And then you go for the after observing you go for the ventriculostomy fenestration at the triangle center of triangle of the hypophysio-mammillary triangle. You go for it. You see nicely that we are putting ventriculostomy forceps which are having serration at the outer margin of forceps, and we are putting a small fenestration here. Then no oozing or no bleeding. Then we go for the Fogarty catheter and we are fenestrate it proper, and then we inflate the balloon with the help of 4 French Fogarty catheter. As you see, we negotiate it from this opening and then inflate it and widening the fenestration. So there is a and hold it. So there is a compression hemostasis at the margin of the fenestration, and bleeding is stopped automatically with this type of pressure. And after sufficient time we are inflated this balloon we are able to see the inside or through and through the from the floor of third ventricle, we are able to see after the Fogarty dilatation. As you see, this is the dilatation of Fogarty of third ventricle floor, which is artificial opening. This is third ventriculostomy. And now we remove Fogarty and we negotiate further endoscope. And as you see, there is another membrane which is Liljequist membrane. As discussed, this is the Liljequist membrane. These are the perforators of the basilar artery. There is no bleeding, and Liljequist membrane also fenestrated. So after this, we are remove the or outside the endoscope after observing that there is no bleeding, no oozing at the margin. There is a foramen of Monro. Foramen of Monro still there is no bleeding. There is a septal vein. This is thalamostride vein. This is choroid plexus. This is fornix. This is the opening. This is foramen of Monro. You are well appreciate these in this video, and then we remove or we go outside and then we close this. So this is the technique, and this type of surgery, when you doing it repeatedly, you are the master of endoscopic third ventriculostomy, and then you also go for the pineal tumors biopsy and another colloid cyst and another type of procedure. So this is the endoscopic third ventriculostomy. Thanks.